Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every week right here on this channel. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resources, where we specialize in political campaigns, government, and public relations. I've been doing it all around this city and this country for the last 25 years, and I want to make your next move a strategic move. So this program gives me an opportunity to do just that. I bring on, talk to some of the people we've met over the years. We bring them on, come on to the program. We talk about some of the things in our experience, and maybe it's something in it that will help you in your business or your personal life. If it sounds like this is something you'll be interested in, all I need you to do is hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell as well, so that you'll know the next time this program's coming on. So without further ado, we're going to get started with the program. But before I get started with that, I want to give a shout out to the guy who's helping me put all of this stuff together. I got my man DJ True in the house. What's happening, son? We don't hear you on the mic. Also, this is a recorded program. Without further ado, before I get started, I want to give a shout out to my guy who helps me put this program together, none other than DJ True. What's happening with you, son?
Hey, what's going on, Ken?
Everything's everything, man. Got a good program. Got one of my friends in here today.
Yeah, I recognized her when she walked in. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah, Miss Shayla Davis. That's who we going to have in the house today, y'all. She's going to talk a little bit
Miss
and
Davis.
learn some stuff that I didn't know about Shayla Davis.
Oh,
also.
and you got to remember, Shayla L. Davis.
Shayla L. Davis.
Shayla L. Davis.
So also we want to give a shout out to our newest member of our crew. I got a new gentleman who joined our podcast as well as helping me with everything we're doing with strategic resources. I gave him the title of my COO. Okay. He's big titles, man. He got a lot to do. I gave him the job and I gave him a whole list of everything I'm involved in. I know he was like, damn, I didn't think I was doing all this, man. I just wanted to come shoot some video.
I just wanted to come shoot.
I wanted to shoot some video, man. You
make some flyers, shoot some videos.
Yeah,
and just...
You got me doing administrative work, going to meetings. I ain't come do all that, but we going to help this young man develop into a really strong asset to our community. So he's going to learn a lot working here. And that is my man, Zeke. We call him, his name is
Ezekiel
Parker. I got this Elijah guy in my mind. I got all these other names, and his name is Zeke. So he told me I call him Zeke. So we're going to call him Zeke. Zeke is in the house also, and we're going to hear more about him, and you'll learn more about him.
What up, Zeke?
All right, so here we go. We're going to get started today with a person who I known for a while. Her name is Shayla Davis. Is a dynamic leader and advocate in equity and racial justice in the community empowerment in Ohio. She serves as president and CEO of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus, where she leads initiatives aimed at addressing systemic inequities and fostering inclusive growth. Davis has been an instrument in policy advocacy through leadership and grassroots engagement and creating tangible change in the Black community. She's a publisher, author, and a strong voice for transmental leadership in Ohio public and in the private sector. So everybody in the house, let's give Miss Shayla Davis a warm welcome. Miss Davis, what's happening?
What's happening, Kenny Dow?
Everything's good. Let's give Miss Davis a little more volume on her mic. Let's see. Miss Davis, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Mr. Kenny Dow. How are you?
That's it. Now I can hear you real good. See, that's what I want to hear.
All right.
Well, Miss Davis, first of all, before we get into everything, I want you to give everybody a little background. Give me you was a politician at one time, so give me that 2-minute, I'm Shayla Davis, spill speech, grew up at, where I come up. You grew up here in Cleveland? No, you're not from Cleveland, are you? Did you grow up here in Cleveland?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, tell me this. See, that's what I want to know. Where are you from? For some reason, I thought you were from somewhere else.
No, born and raised Garfield Heights. My entire life. My whole entire life.
So you was really true about that.
0 to 5. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really my community. I was born there.
Elementary all the way through?
All the way through.
Wow. So come,
tried and true.
Tell me your background. So you, brothers, sisters, what's your name?
Yes, so I'm Shayla L. Davis.
Okay.
You didn't say that, Mr.
Shayla L. Davis.
L. Davis. The L means something
lovely.
Yeah. But yeah, born and raised in the city of Garfield Heights. I went to St. Timothy Elementary, which is a Catholic school right on 131st.
Okay.
Of course, there were two separate sides to Garfield Heights because of redlining. So my grandmother purchased our family home and property back in the late 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
And when my grandmother, my family is actually a product of redlining, because when my grandmother purchased the property, she thought she was moving from the Lee and Harvard community to the city of Garfield Heights for my mom and her siblings to go to Garfield Heights City School. But lo and behold, once they made the purchase of the home, they discovered that part of Garfield had been annexed back to Cleveland, and so they still went to Cleveland Public Schools.
Wow.
So so my grandmother was a part of a lot of the fighting that took place. When I say fighting, advocacy with the Ohio Supreme Court to overturn that, because again, that redlining, that whole strip of Garfield Heights off of 131st, above they call it up the hill, was where all the black people were pushed to purchase the homes and where they were forced to live, and they couldn't attend Garfield City schools. It's still that way today.
Wow.
And while I went to St. Timothy's, which is located in Garfield Heights, I never went to Garfield Heights City Schools. I always went to a Catholic school, and then for high school, I went to John F. Kennedy. I'm an Ego, the best high school in the city of Cleveland. Yes, Ward 1. And so because of that, me and my siblings, we grew up there. So I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. I have an older brother, a younger brother, and then I have an older sister.
Okay. And where you fit in? So
I'm in the middle.
You're in the
I'm
middle.
in the middle. I'm in the
It
middle.
was 4 you guys.
4, right. But my brother, that older brother, he like a younger brother. So really, it's a whole different thing.
That's
my
good.
brother, though, I love him.
That's cool.
And so when I got older and I decided to purchase the home that I still live in today, I thought to myself, and I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was thinking the very community that refused to educate me and my siblings and my mom and her siblings would be forced to educate me and my children. So I never wanted to leave Garfield Heights. So the advocacy part of me has always existed. I remember my father saying, that mouth gonna get you in trouble. I received a lot of punishments, some beatings, because I was born in the 70s, and back then you got your butt beat. So I got a little bit of that as well. So I think it was just something natural for me. Now, if hindsight were 2020, I probably would not have pushed and purchased my home on the other side of Garfield, off of 131st, off of Broadway, off of Turney, past Broadway and 131st, just because of some of the things that have happened. But at the time, it was really about taking a stance and making sure, because that was my grandmother's legacy. That was what she intended. And it didn't happen for 2 generations. So it took this 3rd generation of me and my 2 children, my son and my daughter, for me to purchase this home that I've been in for 24 years. And my children would go to Garfield City Schools and would be graduates in the very community that my grandmother brought into 60 some odd years ago. That's why I still stay there today. I guess that's something to be proud of, but the way I look at it is that it's just a tremendous problem. How can that even be? Especially when you look at the social economic status of Garfield Heights, how the community even looks today. How is that a thing? But racism is real.
Oh, it's truly real, and the last election showed us all of that. So we definitely it's showing. In fact, I'm acting like it's over. We only 3 weeks into it. It seems like it's been 4 years already. We trying to act like it's over with it. We getting around the corner, but no, we haven't even got started yet. And we haven't even felt the ramifications of any of the stuff that's going on. So with that being the case, then, because me knowing that background about you, it wasn't hard for you, for all this advocacy, because all I ever knew about you was Shayla's always out there fighting for an election. I want to run for election. Matter of fact, when you first called me, it was that. I will tell y'all a funny story. I will tell y'all. Hey, my man, Mark, Mel, you want to hear a funny story? I don't know. I was talking to her one day on the phone, and she would call me up because she's running for council or whatnot. Who was that first guy you was running against? The white dude.
Oh my goodness. Eugene Glenn.
Was it Eugene Glenn? Was he the guy who came in your driveway? Yes. I'm talking to her one day. And we talking about the campaign, what she need to do, and should I be doing this and that? And then I hear her, and she was like, yeah, I know you following me. I'm like, who is she talking to? And she was like, yeah, he's following me. He's up in my driveway now. And I'm like, who is she talking about? And you're like, I know he's following. And then next thing I know, she's like getting in her car, and she's like, and she's chasing this dude, and he's running down the street. And she on the phone telling me, yeah, he's been bothering me. He's been following me. He's been going. So Shayla was out there, really out there in Garfield, fighting for that position to become councilwoman. And when I say that, literally, It was a hard fight.
Yeah.
They did not want Shayla to be, and I ain't gonna say they. Yeah, it was they. I ain't
was
gonna even.
theys.
It was they.
With
They
a lot
people
of
was giving
S's.
her a hard time about being councilwoman out there, and they were doing all, like she said, the guys were coming up in her property. They were following her. They were doing a lot of crazy stuff out there. So I understand that, and you took that to run for council. What, 2 times, right?
Yep, 2 times.
You won the second time.
I won the second
Won the
time.
second time, became councilwoman out there. What did you learn when you became councilwoman? After all of that and you got into there, what did you finally learn, like, when you got there?
I wasn't shocked. I didn't learn anything new, but I think what I thought is that once I was elected, I would have a little bit of leverage to really make a difference. And I still wasn't accepted. Although, if I'm being 100% honest, because we on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I was the most qualified, sounds like Kamala Harris, the most qualified, the most equipped, and the most committed to the people to be in that space. Yet because of my gender and my race, I was not valued by those people. And time again, everything that I tried to do, they intentionally pushed back on. Back to the story of you talking about, and I totally forgot you were on the phone with me when that happened.
Right.
This guy was about 87 years old. He literally would drive past my house 5 to 6 times a day.
Wow.
He would stop in front of my driveway and he would sit there.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. That's what he
And
was
I
saying.
mean, he would do it every day. He had my daughter in fear. She was taking pictures and calling me when I would be at work. And finally, I just said, first of all, to know me is to know that I don't really back down from a whole lot of stuff. Like, I may look a certain way, but I'm going to give it to you. Like, that's who I am, right? I'm not really afraid of a lot of things. And I think my father taught me that I can't be.
Right.
As a Black woman, I have to go for it and I have to fight for it. And so I wasn't afraid of him. I didn't even think. I jumped in my car, backed out of my driveway. I went flying down the street and I pulled up on him because I hadn't caught him yet.
Right.
And I rolled down my window and I was like, "What's up? What are you?"
She went off on
It was
this
a
dude.
whole thing. And he was
went
sitting,
off on
him and his wife, though.
Right.
He had his 85-year-old wife on the
Right.
passenger seat
Right.
with him. And I'm just like, really? But let me tell you something, sir. You're not intimidating me.
Right.
This is more my community than it would ever be yours. You've been here 20 years. My family has been here 50.
Wow.
Now what? Because there's this whole thing about if you were a native to Garfield, if you were born from here and they were from here. But you're an outsider then, if that's
Right.
the case.
Right.
I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. And I'm not backing down from this fight. And the fight is to make sure that my people are being represented. Because when I look at our council, at that time, there was not one woman on council,
Right.
Black or white.
Right.
And there had never been a Black woman actually elected onto council in Garfield Heights. There had been a Black woman in place in Ward 1. And let me be very clear, we're talking about 2017. There had never been a Black person out of the 7 seats in any seat except for Ward 1. What is Ward 1? The ward I grew up in, the redlining ward, where the pejorative of the Black folk were. So that was the only ward that they actually allowed someone Black to be in. I, on the other hand, was on the other side of Turney. So now I'm running in Ward 4, uncharted territory. You Black and you running and you're female? And I was up against a multitude of things. And I think they were also intimidated by me. Not because I did possess more. They were intimidated by that. And I was coming with an agenda to move things forward for the people in the city.
Oh, yeah, you were coming.
Yeah.
I mean, you was kicking the door in. You was chasing the white folks down the street.
You come for me, I'm going to come for you.
That's what I'm saying. You were coming in. When you got in there, they like, oh, Jesus, she done made it in. She going to expose us all. And you went at it. She went at it, and to not my surprise, even though she did it anyway, I wanted her to stay as council. You decided, hey, I want to run for mayor.
Yeah, you did. You did tell me
I kept
that.
telling Shayla, come on, stay a little bit longer because it's going to be a hard. You fought so hard to get. She fought like nailing too. She got there. You did one term, and Shayla's like, what their biggest fear was, here come this Black woman, and she said, I want it all now.
Yep.
And she went ahead and said, I want to run for mayor. So what was that experience like when you decided, I'm going to run for mayor?
Imagine what I experienced running for council. It was 10 times worse running for mayor, right? I got death threats. I still literally have the message on my phone that I will never delete.
Really?
Yes, where for 2 minutes and 58 seconds, someone was on the other end of the call saying, Black bitch die, black bitch died. 2 minutes and 58 seconds.
Wow.
I have cameras all around my house, the front, the side, the back, and the other side. And I got the Ring doorbell cameras as well because people were coming to my house. They were walking around. Now, Glenn, he would stop at the driveway, right? He wouldn't go further than that, but he would sit there. They were and I had no idea what these people were willing to do. So I got cameras all around my house. It's so funny. I was talking to one of the guys earlier. I actually had 2 guys come into my home. I paid them to come out and do personal home self-defense for me, to tell me where I need to stand, if there happens to ever be an invasion of my home, how many guns I should possibly have in my house, and where I should have them strategically placed if I needed to pull them and use them on every single level of my house. I've never even had a gun up until that point.
Wow.
Yeah, it was that deep. It was that serious. And I was so heavy with it because while I was telling everybody, nobody was listening. And it made me as a Black woman just continue to feel that we are the most unprotected group of people out here. Because there is no way that I should be running for public office for a seat that I already held. I've worked in the community. I've done the things. And I'm fighting the way that I'm fighting. And these people are openly doing these things to me.
It wasn't that serious.
It wasn't that serious.
It wasn't that serious.
Not for the city of Garfield Heights. I didn't say I wanted presidency.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't say I wanted to be a congressperson.
Right.
I said the mayor of Garfield Heights.
Wow.
And so while people like to compare Garfield and Maple had long integrated.
Yes.
Years ago, back in the 90s, the early 2000s, Garfield had not done that. In 2019, I was the first Black woman elected to city council. I was the only woman on council. 2019, that was just what, 6 years ago?
And in the case of Maple, when the incumbent mayor decided that, hey, I want to leave, he left the seat. The way he left, he gave a good endorsement to Mayor Blackwell, which gave the community we're about to start changing the way we do business. You're not getting that. You didn't get it like on council, not just you, but nobody was getting that in that. It was strictly the way it is, the way it is. And anybody, matter of fact, I got another story about some folks out there. One of our friends of ours was running for a congressional office, and she had to go out there and talk to a couple of those guys. And she told me that it was funny. She said when she came in the building, it was the council president and another big-time council member there. She came in the building walking in. They saw her.
I was there that day.
And they jumped on the elevator, and they closed the elevator right in her face. And so she said what she did was she said, I ran up the stairs. And when I ran up the stairs, I opened up the elevator, and I was standing right there. And they was like, oh, we didn't see you here. It was like, obviously you see me there. And gave her a whole hard time about it. And one of the comments that they made to her was that they said that the type of stuff she was talking about, they said back in our days, we used to keep that stuff over across the tracks.
Yep.
You see what I mean?
Up the hill.
Up the hill and that kind of. Yeah.
Yep.
So it was some racial, and you said it was 17, right?
17, 19, 21.
See?
We talking all these years back to back. Even today, and I think the most disheartening thing for me was the amount of, if I'm being real honest, this is a podcast, right? The amount of Black folk in the community, and I'm going to be even realer, Black men in the community that turned on me. We ain't going to talk about that on camera, but your boy. You took me to your boy. That's how I met the guy. We went and had lunch there one day. I don't know if you remember. I don't know what it was you and I had got together for, but it was to talk about something politically. But the amount of Black men that rallied with those white folk to go against me and attack me. When I tell you, I have never felt, and I have a boat of confidence. I have never felt so low in my life.
And one of my guys did you like that?
Mm-hmm. But he ain't worth mentioning on the podcast.
No, you're going to tell me afterwards, though. I definitely wanted to, like I say, nothing is surprising. When you hear all this speech, you be like, really? That happened? You be like, I'm really not surprised. We're going to keep it moving.
Yeah.
We're going to keep it moving on to, you became a state representative.
Yes,
So
yes.
you changed it up a little bit. When they thought they had you by the ropes, you say, you know what, I'm gonna do something else. Tell us, how did that happen? And you becoming a state rep? I remember it was a vacant seat, correct?
Yep, it was a vacant seat. And so while you talked about me staying in that council seat, so I believe running for mayor is exactly what I needed to do. And I needed to lose that race. I didn't need to deal with the trauma,
Okay.
but it needed to happen exactly the way it happened, because the opportunity for state rep would have never come had I won the mayoral race. I needed to lose. Had I been councilwoman, it would have probably never come. But it was right after I lost the mayoral race, and Stephanie House, at that time it was
That's
District
right. That's who it
11,
was. That's right.
she won her city council seat
correct.
for
Okay.
Ward 7. And I was done. I wasn't running for another office. I was done with all y'all people and this political stuff. It was just, I just needed a break. And I got the phone call asking me if I would be willing to take the seat. And I was like, no, I'm cool. I'm cool. So then there were some other conversations with different people in the background. And then I got a follow-up call. Then I was convinced to apply, because you have to apply when it's a vacancy. So I did apply. The day that I was supposed to interview, I withdrew my application. I said, I'm not interested.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You get into details.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. I withdrew my application. I was like, no, because there was it's politics, right? There was buzz in the background. I was hearing a lot of different things. And sometimes you don't know what to think. I just said, right now, I don't even want to deal with it. So I said no. Some other folk interviewed and different things happened. And then I got a call back and it was like, why did you withdraw? I didn't share why. I just said, I'm good. I'm not interested or whatever. And then I got 2 more phone calls.
Well, why did you? You ain't gonna put that. This is a podcast. Like you see. So why did you withdraw?
Because I was being told in the background that some other people were going after it. And so I just didn't even want to create the competition and the drama. And
You was
the
tired of
mess.
fighting.
Yeah, I just wasn't in a space. I'm a fighter, but I wasn't in a
You were
space
just-
to fight. It was just like, it ain't worth it. Y'all call me. I ain't calling nobody about this. Y'all call me. So I don't wanna do that, right?
I just went through something very similar to that.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
similar. And I just said, you know what?
It ain't worth it.
ain't-
Sometimes it's not worth the fight.
As I say, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It's how I felt at the
Yeah.
time. So then I got that third and final phone call that I got. Someone said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm chilling. I'm good. And they said, just take it. Just take it. You have no idea what's on the horizon.
Right.
Just take it. I ain't taking that. Went through my whole little thing. God bless her for calling me and pushing me to do that. I won't say who, but she knows who she is. Thank you. And so then I called back and I was like, all right. And I got a phone call the next day, like, okay, you're going to be sworn in on Wednesday. Can you come down? I'm like, wait, what? Hold on, what?
Okay.
And I had my family come down. I was sworn in, and it was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. It was a wonderful experience, even with all the negativity of Ohio politics and what's happening at the federal level and has been happening. If it were not for that position, the amount of doors, opportunities, spaces, and people that I have encountered since 2022 have been phenomenal. And I cannot thank the people enough that asked me to take that seat. It wasn't even about that moment. It was about what has happened since then.
Okay.
And what I've learned. Like, I had never had my eyes on the State House. It just wasn't a thought for me. I really wanted to fight for my community. I was
Correct.
Garfield strong, right?
Right.
That's what I was invested
Right.
in. And so it was just magical. And I got to see a different perspective. I got to see where people actually value and respected your influence and your opinion. And some people really wanting to come to the table to make a difference. Not a whole lot.
Right.
I'm not going to act like it was. But there were some people that really valued and were intentional about seeing me win because they believed in me and understood what I wanted to do. That wasn't the case in Garfield at all. Now, I won't say that about the residents and the constituency in Garfield. They supported me, but it wasn't enough because we know our people.
That's correct. That's correct.
We support from the couch, baby. And couch support don't do no
Couch support
whole
don't do a
lot.
lot, right.
It might do a lot for TV ratings,
Right.
but it don't do a whole lot for you in a political space. But I'm thankful for it, which then led me to where I am today. I was asked to come and take over the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation.
But position was only temporary, was it? Or you
You want me to go into all of that?
No, No, because for my viewers now who don't know you, what happened? Did you finish your term? You went on to do it?
So yes,
Yeah.
I finished my term, and that was at the time when we were going through the redistricting.
That's correct.
And so at the time, we did not have viable maps, and there were lawsuits being filed across the country, the state, that said that the maps weren't viable. We had the pandemic going on, so then the election stuff, when you were supposed to vote, all that was just up in arms. What happened? We didn't have actual districts. Although the filing date had long passed. The filing date actually had passed a week before I decided to take the seat. And I knew that I was taking the seat to finish
Now
the
it
term.
came to me. There it is. Now I remember.
However,
All right, go ahead.
everything happened with the redistricting. They opened filing back up. Some folks shifted and moved around that were supposed to run for the seat because I was never going to compete.
I remember now.
Yeah, and we'll just.
Yeah.
But I did get on the ballot.
You did get on, but when
run
you
for
started
my
talking,
seat.
then I caught up with you again. 'Cause I was like, what happened, Shayla?
Yeah, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
What happened?
That led to, like you say, opportunity that you never thought was going to come by.
Yes.
I gave you an opportunity to work with the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. Correct?
Foundation.
That's correct. And I have some experience with them working with Derek Clay over some years. Believe it or not, I met Derek Clay when he was the Ohio director for the Bill Clinton. His vice president was the internet guy.
The internet guy.
Who said he invented the internet. What was his name?
Who said that? I don't remember.
DJ. Who was Bill Clinton's vice president? Al Gore.
Al Gore.
Al Gore.
He said he invented the internet?
Al Gore said he invented the internet.
Oh, Al Gore probably
He
lying.
invented it. I think a lot of folks would say he's lying. But yeah, he said he invented the internet. But it was a big deal back then. And the reason why is because he was African American. Back then, they never had an African American doing anything, because you can imagine back then. And Derek was the state coordinator for that in Ohio. So it was interesting. So I met him back then, and we've been cool ever since then. And I knew he was involved in the foundation. And then shortly after that, we was talking. As a matter of fact, he was on the podcast. And when he came,
really?
Yeah, he did a show with Derek. If you go through my shows, he
I
came
have to
up
see
there.
because I see all of them. I didn't see that one though.
No,
Okay.
Derek was cool. He came in when I first got started. It didn't look nothing like this. Like
Okay.
you'll see as I grow, I improved
Right.
improved it. But yeah, Derek was one of my first guests. Come on, because he was cool. He drove all the way up here too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he drove
nice.
up here and everything. And yeah, we talked about it, and that's when he explained to me that you were over at the OLBC Foundation. To my millions and millions of viewers that's out there watching you, tell everybody, what is the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation all about?
So the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation is it's Ohio's black think tank for public policy. While we are an extension, I shouldn't say that, we're not an extension of the caucus. So let me go back a little bit. The Ohio Legislative Black Caucus is the caucus that convenes black state legislators, right? And they work on whatever issues are happening presently while in their official capacities as state electeds. They also are a C4 where they get other blacks elected at the state level. 30 years ago, now former Senator Vernon Seitz and Ernie Cade, most people know Ernie Cade here from Cleveland.
That's correct.
They were two of the founding members of the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. So the foundation was created to be the community engagement and advocacy arm of the caucus. And so they had foresight 30 years ago to realize that in their official political capacities, while they weren't necessarily limited to what they could do, their job was to be fighting at the State House, right, to ensure that black voices and all those things were happening. But then who was on the ground actually doing the work and engaging the community so that they fully and clearly understood what was happening? So they created the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. I also believe at that time, they also wanted to create a scholarship fund, which is what most foundations across the country do. We do not do that. So that's how it evolved and became a thing. So Barbara Sykes, former Senator and State Representative Barbara Sykes, she had been the president for about the last 8 years. And then in 2023, she resigned to run for the Akron School Board.
School board, yeah.
And that's when I was approached to apply for the position and to see if that I would be interested in it. And I was really excited about it because it was still an opportunity to be heavily involved in the public policy space and still at the state level, right? And to still work with those Black Caucus members, which I had been a member of. I guess you're always a member once you've been a member, but to really be able to go back to what I am heavily invested in is the community impact, community voice, community choice. And so in the last year and about 4 months, since I've had the foundation, I've changed a lot of things within the foundation, where originally we held an annual educational awareness conference every year. I have formulated us into a strong philanthropic 501c3, where we are focused on multiple things. While we don't do specific programming, it is all about public policy research, data analysis, and advocacy, right? And so spent time creating a strategic plan. It was something that we had never had before, writing grants as a nonprofit. We didn't have grants before. So last year, we got our very first 2 grants. Our very first grant came from the Gun Foundation. I am so thankful to the Gun Foundation and Trey Johnson for his willingness to really see the vision of what I had for the foundation and where we needed to go, which allowed us to develop some rebranding and marketing, because so many people say the caucus when they mean the foundation, or mean say the foundation when they mean the caucus, and not their inability to delineate between the two. We're 2 starkly different organizations led by 2 totally different people.
So the foundation and the nonprofit
Is who we are.
The
We're the
foundation.
nonprofit.
and the other one is the
The caucus is, they get people elected. So they're a PAC. They're a political action committee.
that's the chairman of that is Terrence Upchurch?
Terrence is the president.
President. Okay,
of that.
so now I'm with you then.
And so the president for that is elected by the other Black state elected officials. So when I
Understand
was
that.
in office, we
Right.
elected Terrence, and then they have an executive director
Director.
who serves all of the
them.
members
Right.
in the Black Caucus to elevate whatever it is they're doing, which is to get
So
Blacks
prior
elected.
to that, the foundation was just a foundation. It wasn't a 501c3.
It's been a 501c3 for the last 30 years.
Okay. So
So-
what did you change?
Making it, operationalizing it.
Okay.
And so what we did, we held an annual conference once a year about political educational awareness. We're in a different space now. So one of the things that we're working on now is the State of Black Ohio report.
Okay.
Our roundtable membership. So we are mirroring what the CBC does at the federal level,
Okay.
right? And so it's about pushing out policy, having data briefs, policy briefs on what's happening across the state, and elevating what the Black legislators are actually doing, and the community engagement piece. And so capacity building, when I came in, it was just me, right? We didn't have staff or anything like that before. We now have 5 people
Really?
working for the foundation, right? Our budget was very small. In the first year, I raised close to $300,000 so that we can operationalize, making sure we had a website, the rebranding of our logo, and really the awareness, getting out and doing things like this to really explain to
Understand.
people who we are. We are a Black think tank. It's about bringing leaders across the state who are invested and interested in Black issues and want to champion them through public policy. And we have a direct connection to the Black legislators.
That's real interesting, and I'm glad to hear that. Ohio's been on the battleground for diversity and inclusion in policy, here especially Blacks and minority-owned businesses. How do you think with the repeals of the federal policy supporting DEI affecting the community here, and like we say, especially these small businesses and Black businesses, you say that you guys sort of you mirror what's going on in D.C., and right now DEI is just really huge with everything that's going on. So what, as a think tank, and as you say, where are some of the, I know it's just happening, but enlighten me on some of the things that you're hearing, some of the steps you think that may be going on in the future as it relates to that.
So I'm really excited to share, like this is just hot off the press.
Oh.
I'll say that in the podcast, sound good, right? So I am partnering with an organization. I won't name that organization quite yet, but in May, we're going to be doing a Policy-thon.
Okay.
This is in the likeness of a hackathon is what people do in the tech world. They come together for about 28, 48 hours and they just dive in. They have all these problems or issues or challenges in the tech world, and they don't leave until they come up with solutions on how to solve them.
Okay.
We are going to mirror that and do a Policy-thon. It will only be a 12-hour event, but from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., bringing experts across the entire state who are invested in policy, who want to understand policy, who are just grassroots organizations, who are business owners, who understand how difficult it is to be a part of minority business development grants and all the things that are holding them back or hindering them from reaching their full potential. And we're coming together to bring people in the room and specifically focus on these 4 subject areas. So one is Black economic empowerment and growth. The other one is Black maternal health. The other one, wait a minute, hold on. Black civic engagement and development, and democracy building and development. And then, I can't think of what the 4th one is. Black maternal health.
Take your time.
Economic empowerment and impact. Civic engagement. Nonetheless, it's policy building, right? And so we're going to come into the room and talk about the issues that are plaguing our community, and it's to have the voice of the community behind these policies. I can tell you from when I was in the State House, some of the times the policies that, would come before us, I could tell that it was an investment from the community. It was these big lobbying firms coming in saying these are the issues, these are the things that they need change for them to be okay. But the way in which it impacts the people is something totally different.
So what you guys going to do with the information you get?
Develop policy. We're walking out of there. It will be policy. You're going to be there for 12 hours. Figure it out. And whatever subject area that you are really invested in, you come together, you talk about that, creating policy. And when we walk out of there, we're going to have 4 solid policies that we're then going to take back to the state legislators using the caucus to say, this is the agenda for 2025. This is what Black folks say they need and what they want. How are we going to promote and push this? And how does the foundation from the outside support this, champion this work, and bring the awareness to the rest of the community?
All right, so let me ask you a hard question. Right, we got the document. Here it is. It looks real good. How are you going to get that pushed in the State House when it seems the Democrats are at an all-time low in power? So, and you've been down there a while. How is, or is that another strategy that has to be developed from the policy of how we get that done? Is that one of the things?
And so that's a part of it too. But I will say we are nonpartisan, the foundation. So while we do work with the caucus is a political organization, we are not. And we do have Black Republicans at the State House, and I work with them. Really? We have 2. We have State Senator Michelle Reynolds out of Columbus, and we have State Representative Josh Williams out of Toledo. My goal is to advance Black people. I don't care what your political stance is. Now, I do care if you're doing something to harm our people, Democrats or Republican.
Oh, so I guess the easy answer is you got people on both sides.
Boom. But then the other part,
because that's a big help.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a huge. Even if it's only 2, at least you got 2 people who can really sit in rooms that other people are not in.
We can't sit in.
That we can't sit in and advocate, and their vote for other stuff that the other people want is just as valuable. So they can get some of our stuff squeezed, in there on some of that stuff.
And if I'm being
at least you got to end.
And if I'm being very honest, my time at the State House as a state representative, I was able to make inroads on the other side of the aisle because I was there to build up my people. Gotcha. While I am, Shayla personally is a Democrat, and I believe in the democratic processes and concepts. I understand the State House. I understand politics. I understand this whole political thing. I have to work with everybody. And so everything that I was pushing for, I knew I needed someone on the other side. And so Bill Sykes, stark Republican out of Cincinnati. If you know him, Bill Sykes gonna smoke his cigarettes in the office. You ain't supposed to. He's been there. He's retired now. He's been there 100 years. But he is someone I could sit down at the table with, tell him I adamantly disagree with him. He is speaking from his white voice, and I'm giving you the Black perspective and why these experiences matter. And he would always end the conversation with, because that's how he talk, you're not really talking my language. You need to word this in a way that they can understand it so we can make it move. I value that so much because while we can fight and we can stand on things and we can say the buzzwords that people want to hear, how effective are we to really be able to advocate and get change done? And so I have some of those relationships. I won't say that I have them all. And right now, when you look at Ohio, And the Trumpers that have taken over, we don't even have a lot of the old Reagan,
That's
folk there.
That's
We
correct.
got nut jobs
Right.
in office running things. So it is going to be harder. But in reality, I'm not going to stop fighting. We started this conversation off talking about me
That's
fighting,
what you do.
right?
So they got the right person in the job. That's for real. Hey, you spoke out against, speaking of fighting, you spoke out against the executive order that threatens equity in Ohio. What is your response to critics who say that the orders are about efficiency rather than exclusion?
Here's the real reality. Black folk ain't really benefited from DEI as much as they're putting out to say it's a racist tactic to ensure that white supremacy continues to prevail. And that's a problem because at the end of the day, we need that. If it were not for the civil rights movement, we wouldn't be in some of the places and spaces that we were in. I was having a conversation yesterday with a guy, and he showed me where DEI has done something for us. The mainstream majority, all of that may be true, but we have still benefited. We wouldn't even be in some spaces at the table in some cases without that. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But do we have to continue to fight? Yes. I'm just going to be real frank. Some of this is a community issue. We have not done our part. We look at elected officials and expect them to snap their finger and make real change. Policy is about two people coming together and working together. When you're elected, you need your constituency to elevate. You need to be promoting that. You have to show up and get at these committee hearings and say what's really happening and push back on these elected officials. And so when we talk about DEI, there are problems. We need things to change, but we still need those things to exist. We realize where they're taking us back to, trying to take us back to? We have to fight. If we don't, what are we going to do?
Some believe that affirmative action and African Americans lost in the DEI fight because we allowed the net to grow so wide. At some point, I believe, I can believe because I'm not elected official. I can say what I want. It's my podcast too, so I can say it. But I just believe that. I believe that at some point or another, we should have kept always fighting for affirmative action on every stance. And I don't think we should have included us in the DEI fight. I understand why, but I think that now that DEI is now gone, it killed everything. And I think, and when I say that, even the mindset of what affirmative action was all about, when we put it all in this DEI thing, it gave them, and them are everybody who was against it, an opportunity to now say, ha, we don't want it because you had transgenders in it, you got this in it, you got that in it. And we don't mind you black folks, but you got too many other folks in there now.
But they mind us black
and
folks.
they minded us at first anyway, but it was their reason of now we can get rid of all of it at one time. And that's the only bad part I think about it is that I really wish that black people, like to your point, just fought a little harder for that. And is that the tent was just too big, I think, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, stats are showing, to your point of the person you was arguing earlier, that black folks, white women is the ones who benefited the most from DEI. And so if that was the case, then we really lost as an affirmative action because we didn't benefit from it. So it makes you feel like, oh, we're going to go over, Shayla, because that's what we do.
Okay.
It makes you feel like, hey, how did it benefit us? And what are we really fighting for?
So here's my thing on that. I don't necessarily disagree.
Okay.
But at the same token, I do disagree. The problem is us. We have gotten so far removed from how we got here, started all of this.
Exactly.
What we do today. I was talking to a guy 3 days ago. We pick up our families, we move out of these communities, and we move to better. We move into these other spaces and we leave our black people to fend for themselves and figure, because I am a better black. I don't know if that's what people are saying, but I've evolved. I have more. So I'm not invested in that anymore.
That's right.
Generationally, we've continued to lose the fight and the understanding of intentionality of why this stuff is important. And did affirmative action really get infused into DEI, or did someone just say that? Because my thing is, it's a buzzword. Trump started it, a DEI hire. First of all, Kamala Harris was not hired. She was elected. And if you want to compare being hired and elected as the same thing, you can, but it's not. He started that. I don't want to cuss.
BS, I got it for you.
He started that mess, and we pick up on these buzzwords,
Right.
and we run with it. Affirmative action is something that we need. We know the Asian community greatly benefited from it, and we really didn't, but we stopped fighting.
That's what I'm saying.
Because we gained access because of it.
Exactly.
It gave us what we needed, and then we removed ourselves from it.
There you go.
That's the problem. We're the problem.
Yes.
It ain't nobody else. So my question is, what do we do today? I challenged and charged myself last week. All the things that I'm involved in, public policy, politics, all of that. I had not read cover to cover Project 2025. I challenged myself last week to do it. I read some of it. I knew some excerpts, but I've been reading over the last 75 pages. And one of the things that the Heritage Foundation says is that we move as one rowing team. We speak one voice. That sounds very cultish to me. There's one leader and everybody falls in line. But that is why their message is resonating. That is why we're hearing woke, DEI. I was at Cracker Barrel. Why I went to Cracker Barrel, I have no idea. A week ago, I'm sitting next to this woman, and she was the biggest Trump-loving person I've ever heard.
Geez.
I had to get up. I had to get my food to go. I had to go. And I had a small conversation with her that I won't share.
Did she recognize you, or she was just sitting over there just talking?
I felt she was baiting me. I don't think she recognized me because we probably all look the same to her.
So she just started a conversation.
I think she was she was talking to her friend. My back was to them, but she was boldly speaking about how wonderful Trump was with all of his executive orders and sending all of the troops to the borders and 1,500 and the wall and getting rid of all these woke people and these woke things. And she talked about how she was a teacher in CMSD for 30 years.
Whoa.
She talked about how she didn't get to teach science on multiple days because she had to teach those woke children how to say please and thank you and how to tie their shoes. She mentioned that she was a science teacher, so I assumed she wasn't working with little kids. So how was she teaching people to tie their shoe? Thought that was a farce, but whatever. But as I listened to her, she was just parroting what they say on Fox News. Again, going back to what the Heritage Foundation talks about. One voice. We row together. They make sure they don't deviate from that. And as long as they're consistent with that, we then start to believe some of it too, because that's all you hear.
That's correct.
The fact that we spend so much time trying to dispel DEI, I don't need to talk about DEI. What we need to do is figure out how we're going to continue in this fight, how we're going to ensure that money is coming back to our communities and that our Black businesses are doing what they need to do. Do we actually need it? It's good to have. It's good to have as a baseline to ensure that we're not being ostracized. But at the same token, how are we fighting for each other?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a different approach. You're gonna be good on the radio. This one, wait till you get on that damn radio.
They're gonna be pissed.
I wasn't expecting that one from you. How do you respond to the growing trend of corporations scaling back on DEI incentives? And as it seems that many of these companies are doing exactly what you're saying, they rolling all together. And they saying, hey, we're going to do that. Many believe, and that's why I say you're going to be good on the radio show, because all we've been talking about and everybody, we're going to protest. Matter of fact, last week on the show, we talked about Tabitha. What was it, DJ?
Tabitha Brown
and her products in Target. People are saying that we want to boycott Target. There's a lot of African Americans who have products in Target and Walmart and stuff like that, and the issues they're going through. So, Ms. CEO,
let's get into it.
Let's get into these corporations. What do you think?
What I think is that the Black consumer market is the biggest and largest one in the USA. I think $1 trillion. But we're the poorest, right?
Yeah.
We're the poorest, but we spend the most money. We absolutely can boycott. We absolutely should. But beyond that, I'm going to have to go back to this Project 2025. We can't keep getting caught up in this mess. We need to read that playbook because they are doing everything that they said they would do in those 922 pages. What is our response to that? It's called the Manifestation for Leadership, Project 2020, the Mandate for Leadership, Project 2025. So I'm saying, where's our Mandate for Freedom 2025. That's what we need to be focusing on. Am I going to Target? No, I'm not. But is it a reality that I can't ever go to Target again or any of the other places? No, because this is America. America is saturated and rooted in racism. If we are going to talk about boycotting everything, we can't go nowhere.
The reality is, in some of these communities, they have no choice. The Walmart in not just Cleveland, but around this country, they're probably the only store for miles and miles for some of these people to go to. So I hear it, but I just don't, to your point, we can't say it. We got to have some solutions and some ways to be able to fight the fight.
And so one of the things that I think that we need to do is to uplift small Black business. Instead of you going to Target and buying that deodorant from Target, who's making homemade deodorant at home? Right. What Black person is doing that? How are we promoting that and elevating that so that they can have the resources to sustain their family, and then we have access to what it is that we need? Why are we not coming together to talk about collaboration on that? I do think that we should not be going, and I'm not going. Right now, I'm not shopping anywhere. I had to go get groceries because I got to eat to survive. But I'm not shopping anywhere right now, and I'm going to stick to that for 30 days as best as I can. I ain't going to lie. But we've got to elevate ourselves. We spend $1 trillion in this consumer industry, Black folk. We can cause a halt and push back. But is that the only thing we're talking about? And that's such a short-term solution.
And because, you know, I looked at a thing, Al Sharpton walked into Costco.
With 100 people. Why would you laugh at that man? I ain't laughing, Al. Al Sharpton, I'm not laughing.
But this is what I don't know if anybody ever shopped at Costco's.
I do.
100 people walking in Costco, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is. And it's not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things. That's why I'm laughing. But if you shop there, if I was in there and I saw another 100 people walk in there, because the lines in Costco's already at the back of the store. Right. It really is. So I'm looking at another 100 people walking there, like, I'll never go in Costco again. I'd be like, I ain't going in there because everybody's in there now. And it's a good thing, but it's going to be hard. It's just like what you were saying. Just to say it is one thing. How you really put all of this to practicum is another thing. And I think we got to have some real solutions with some real leaders really leading us in that. Otherwise, it's going to be like you say, it's just everybody snapping and, 100 people went to Costco's here. You got 10 people out in front of Walmart complaining, that kind of thing. But we're not really making no serious impact if we're not putting a dent in that $1 trillion. And that's what's up.
And why can't we just copy what the Heritage Foundation is doing? One voice. Rowing together.
We got to row together, that's for sure. But we've been trying to talk as one voice ever since we said let freedom ring.
We ain't been trying to talk as one voice, though. We all been saying it separately. But let's get into it. Let's talk about just alone in Cuyahoga County. Let's talk about the space of silos that we operate in. The mere fact of what happened to me running for office in Garfield Heights. It's a small inner ring suburb. Why didn't folk in Cleveland Heights know what was going on? Right. Why didn't folk in Twinsburg? I'm sorry. Why didn't people off of 93rd in Cleveland know what was going on? Because we're not moving in one voice. That's your problem over there. You fighting that fight in Garfield.
That's right.
You good. 2 or 3 people may know, but that's it. Because everybody is focused on being individual, and that is what our problem is. That is what, when we think about, I'm going to say humans, but I'm going to talk about Black people. Black people are communal. The African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I remember my other neighbor saying, don't walk in my grass. What are you doing? You walking with that boy? Get away from that boy. Don't let me tell your daddy, because that's what everybody did in the community. We operated together. We don't do that anymore. How many people actually know their neighbors? How many people talk to their neighbors?
That's correct.
How many people allow someone to say something to their child? Until we become unified, we will continue to fail and suffer. That's just my belief and thought.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. It's no doubt about it. It's the truth.
We don't even have a plan.
But it's just our community. I don't know what's the reason. It's the times. It's the devastation to our community that brought up that the people that you're talking about who understood that were all eliminated. Let's just keep it real. They were eliminated. They were eliminated through drugs, and they hit our communities and stuff. So all those people who understood what you're saying and understood that's the way it was supposed to be, got affected by drugs and stuff so bad that the result of that is a whole nother generation of people who have no idea about that. So when you talk about the neighbors being able to know you and be able to take care of you and raise you up and teach you stuff, they don't know that because nobody taught them nothing.
Yeah.
Nobody was no neighbors for them to teach them anything. Their mothers and what they looked at, me and you saw as examples of what you're supposed to be, isn't the same examples that that generation after us. Because me and you were around the same age and we were right there. So it was our generation. We lucky we made it out.
Yeah.
Without having all of that baggage that they got. And we got it because our family got it.
Yeah.
Either as our sisters, our brothers, or that we had to still go through that with. And so that part, and from that, it separated us all. It became, you better take care of yourself because you only got yourself mentality. And that's what we ended up getting, and that's where we at. So nobody knows. When you, like you say, how come what happens here in Cleveland Heights, we don't know it happened over in Shaker and there. Back in the day, you knew it because that was the way we communicated and everybody was doing it. But now that's gone. So with that being gone, everybody getting their news, whatever they can get on social media, they're getting little bits and pieces of that, and everybody is just everywhere. So,
And I think everybody wants to, not everyone, but a lot of people want to lead, which is cool if you're a leader, but everybody can't lead.
Right.
But how can I come in and be a shepherd and support the leader that's already trying to do something? The other reality is, again, I will go back to, we removed ourselves from those conditions because we wanted to assimilate and be more adaptable. So as much as we talk about loving being Black and being in this Black space, we wanted to get further and further away from that because there is a small piece in some people's mind that feel that white is better. And that makes them more acceptable, more adaptable, and more presentable to society.
and you want to know who got affected by that the most in this last election? The Mexicans. Okay, and that was their lesson.
Yep.
And because of the fact that just what you're saying, that one little piece, they want to make me better than Black people, or that you will accept me because of who I am, because I'm really not Black. Well, you accept me because of all those little things that they want. The acceptance piece is the exact reason why they got what they got. And so what I mean by that is a lot of them who thought exactly what we said, that this didn't apply to us, you found out that it applied to you. Now, what everybody's going to find out is that racism is an equal opportunist. And so just because you white even doesn't mean that you exempt. All right, so we just he ain't got to y'all yet, but it's coming.
Right.
All right, because it's all about Anglo-Saxon in this thing.
Yep.
And
Pure.
pure.
What they consider to be pure.
And we hate to say it like that, but you'll see. That's all I'm going to say. Let's keep our eyes open, but it's going to boil down to that.
But then my question is, where do the purest people come from?
Oh, that's a whole nother show. We ain't got time.
Oh, okay. We ain't going to
But
get
what
into
we
that.
want to do this because we'll have you come back and we'll get on that. That's a whole nother conversation. Let me end with this, though, because I do want to round you out because Shayla is going to be on our radio show, and we're going to talk some more about this. And I want you to, now that I know you in Cleveland, my last question, then I'm going to let you have the camera, is let's talk about your book. Because I said to everybody, you are an author. And I forgot you wrote this book. I remember when you did, you put it out. So tell everybody about the book you wrote and what's going on with it and that kind of thing.
So this book is called RJ's Big Adventure at the State House with an I. And it's a book that I created and co-wrote with my grandson, which I did most of the work, but he getting all the credit. And it was really about me being in this space, again, being one of 99 at the State House and realizing out of that 99, I was one of 24 other Black people, a very small number. And I'm talking about representing the entire state of Ohio. And I thought to myself, if this is what exposure looks like and experience, that I've got to give it back to the next generation, that next generation being my grandson. I want him to see himself in these spaces because I want him to know he can be whatever it is he wants to be. And I remember when President Barack Obama got elected and that became the thing, like you can be anything that you want to be. And that does sound great and you can, but when it's over there and you're over here, it is far-reaching.
Wow. Yeah.
But when you put someone in that space and they see it at a young age, it starts to create this condition in their mind that they really can be. Talk to him about the State House. There are some adults who have never been to the State House.
Correct.
There are some adults who have never been in the state chambers. They have no idea.
I've never been down there.
RJ has his big adventure to the State House. He gets into this stuff. As I shared, first of all, he was born in this space of politics because when he was born is when I first started to run for office. So he even understands the concept of yard signs. Although we know yard signs do not vote, they're still important for advertising, and they do set a precedence and kind of, give your opponent some fear. But he pays attention to that. I remember him calling me one day asking me about a Chantel Brown yard sign. He lives in the city of Warrensville Heights, and he was like, "That's a blue sign, Nana. Is that the right side?" Absolutely, because he understood just from seeing things and being around me that technically red is considered the Republican color, blue, although I wear red, and blue is a Democratic color. And so her yard signs were blue and white. As he left out of Warrensville, he was somewhere else, and I remember him calling me, and he was saying, "Nana, there's all these other signs. Why don't I see a Chantel Brown sign?" And I explained to him, "Baby, you're in a whole nother community." He was a little further out in some different spaces, but the fact at 5 and 6 years old that he's paying attention to those things, I wanted him to understand that because we got to bring civics back.
That's correct.
As I'm running for office and people tell me they don't know what a state representative does, people thought that when I was a councilwoman that the mayor was my boss.
Wow.
People thought that the mayor could fire a council person. When I say people, I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about adults. People not understanding the difference between the two houses, the two chambers, Senate and House of Reps, just not even having that conceptual understanding. I wanted something to be different for him, but I wanted him to write this book from his experience and perspective as a child, because if we feed it to a child as a young age, my hope is that they start to understand it, believe it, and feel it as they grow older.
Okay.
And so I thought, if he can pick up on this information and understand the political process, then why shouldn't his friends? Why shouldn't his classmates? And why shouldn't other children? And so that's why we wrote the book. And it's been great. We had a book signing at the Warrensville Heights Library. Obviously, again, that's where he lives. His school recognized him as being the very first author of the entire school district in all the years. No one has authored a book before. And he was officially given some things for that. The school has purchased some of the books. He has read the book in different classrooms at the school. I'm selling the book all over, and I continue to plug it. You can go to Amazon,
there it is.
and you can get the book, and I'll say it in my last little couple seconds. And so I'm putting it on social media. Again, it's a quick, easy read. It's a fun book, but it is about the civic experience. It's also about an intergenerational connection. I'm still fairly young I guess my grandmother was fairly young too, but how she looked and how I looked might be a little different, and people think grandmothers of today don't do this. This intergenerational connection of older folk pulling back to young people, bringing them in the fold together so that we're connected, bringing family back together. How important and valuable is family? It's not just Thanksgiving and Christmas. And what are we doing to empower our youth? Because this little boy is going to be the future if we make it, and he needs to know something. Because if he's hooked on what Donald Trump is talking about, we got serious problems. So I need him to be empowered. You know what I'm saying? I need him to be empowered. I need him to understand, and I need him to grow and evolve. And it's working. And he is really proud of the book. Everyone that has I should have brought it's in my car. I'm gonna have to bring it back up.
Yeah, because I need you to sign one for me.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give it to my little buddy we got.
Yes.
Destiny. She has a little daughter, and we've been giving all the people who write these little kids books. I have them sign them and give her one.
Yes. It's just about engagement, representation, and getting him interested and invested in reading and writing, which is a lost art, which is why folk ain't read the 922 pages of Project 2025.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
So that's what it's all about.
DJ, you got something before we go?
Yeah. What do you think about all these, especially in Cleveland Heights? They just hit one of my favorite restaurants in Cleveland Heights, taking away immigrants. What do you think about that? And how do we fight that locally, or is there anything that your organization can do?
And no, we are not really focused on what's happening in terms of immigration. Do we feel the compassion and pain for those folk? Yes. I have a serious issue with the birthright citizenship and how they're trying or were trying to overturn all of that and all of that mess. But the reality is this is the effect of Trump. This is the effect of the election. We tried to tell people. Again, I'm going to go back to Project 2025. It's very clear on what they were going to do. It's unfortunate that it's happening, but this is who people voted for. And so what are we to do? What we need to do is understand Project 2025, read the section that talks about immigration, and then come up with a solution to fight back. But when the federal government is in control and saying that this is what's going to happen, we voted for this clown. I'm sorry, should I say that?
It's too late.
Oh. We voted for this guy. And so he's in office, and if those are the people that voted for him, unfortunately, this is the result of their vote. And for those that didn't vote, this is the result of your lack of voting. When I say we, I'm talking about Black folk. We got to focus on us. We got to survive. Is it wrong? 2,000%. But every battle cannot be fought by everybody. And I'm sticking to the fights that I believe can be conquered and that I can have change and effectuate the change for the future. That's the best thing I can say and do.
Thank you for that.
All right, what I want to do is I'm going to let you have this camera right there. You get a chance to look into the camera, Miss Shayla, and tell everybody what's on your mind. Tell them how they can get in touch with your book, how they can get more information about the OLBC, if they get involved, any events that's coming up,
Yes.
any of that stuff. Right there, that camera's yours. Take your time. You want to get some water before you do
Yes,
that?
please.
Drink you some water. Like I said, we added in. Get your water, get your thoughts together, and take your time and say what you want to say.
Woo. All right, everybody. I am Shayla L. Davis. Very happy to be here for this podcast, Strategic Moves with Kenny Dow. Ken Dow. I call him Kenny Dow, but very grateful for the opportunity to be here. And I want to talk a little bit about the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, which I am the current president and CEO of. We are working on the State of Black Ohio report. This report is to talk about the issues and the challenges through research and data analysis that are affecting Black people across the state of Ohio. We need funding to be able to do that. The purpose of this report is to create and develop legislative policy at the state level to hopefully effectuate change for the Black community in all areas. There's no area that's going untapped. Wherever there's an issue and a concern, we want to talk about it. We're diving into the research, but we're not doing the research alone. We are partnering with other organizations across the state who've already done some of the research because we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we need to put a report out. When we put this report out, the goal is to have it out in 2026, 2027. It will be a direct response to whoever the governor is at that time, their State of the State address. We plan to have a press conference and to boldly stand with Black folk across this state and demand what we need at the State House. These public policies matter, and they do trickle back down to our local communities. So I'm asking you, if you have $20, if you have $5, because Barack Obama won his election with $5, folk giving $5 all across the country. If you have $5, donate. OLBCFfoundation.org. There's always a link you can click on that says donate. It helps us do the work that we do. It helps us to keep the message alive and the awareness about what it is that we're doing. In May of this year, because of everything that's going on at the federal level and some of what's happening at the state, because it's going to get worse, we're hosting a Policy-thon. Is in the likeness of a hackathon, which they do in the tech world. They come together for about 48 hours as a shut-in. They look at the issues and the challenges, and they find solutions. They walk out of there with solutions to resolve the problem. That is what we plan to do with this Policy-thon. While we won't be there for 48 hours, we will be there for 12. And the goal is to come out with solid public policy that we can take to the state legislators and ensure that they are pushing to move those things forward. We at the foundation, we're not a partisan organization, so we work with everyone on both sides of the aisle as long as we are talking about elevating the Black community. If you would like to meet, if you would like to partner, your organization, or even as an individual, please reach out to me. Again, the website is olbcfoundation.org. All of our contact information is on there. And then my personal plug is my book with my grandson, RJ's Big Adventure at the State House with Nana. You can purchase the book on Amazon. I'll get the link over to the podcast so that it can be shared. But also, you can find me on social media. DM me. I ride around with books. I got books for sale, y'all. They in my car, and I will pull up on you. They are $15, and it is to help and encourage this little Black boy who I believe is our future, and he will be something great. And it's also to ensure that other children his age understand civic engagement, and they're willing to be invested and to learn about it. Thank you for having me today, Davis. Thank you.
And we will have all the links to how you can reach Ms. Shayla L. Davis on her social media links, as well as on the website for the OLBC. So Shayla, I want to thank you for sharing your foundation, where you can reach and get information about everything from the OLBC Foundation in the description. And we'll have all of that in the description, okay? Thank you for, Shayla, I want to thank you for sharing your insights for this incredible work you're doing to advance equity and justice here in Ohio. Your leadership is inspiring, and I and my audience have learned a lot from this conversation, really have. All right, to the listeners, remember, the fight for equity isn't just Shayla's fight, it's our fight, whether it's advocating for better policy, supporting businesses, or simply just having these conversations. We all have a role to play. We will see you next week. Remember, we have a talk show that comes on every Tuesday on WOVU 95.9. It's a talk show. It's a call-in radio show. It's called Talk to Me Tuesdays. What's on your mind? And Miss Shayla Davis is going to be joining us on that podcast, on that radio show as well. So look forward to checking that out. So remember, hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell so that you'll know even when that program comes on, because we do it live as well. So till next time. Peace.